Okay, this one's kind of wild. We joke about Swiss Army knife gadgets, but this one really is trying to cover a lot of bases. Hey there, this episode of Some Gadget Guy is brought to you by viewers like you, all of the incredible people out there sharing content across social media, and the amazing generosity of my patrons at patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. More info on those awesome nerds later in the video. The folks at UnifyDrive sent this my way to test drive, review, share some thoughts. This is the UT2. And I'm impressed. I've been having a lot of fun with the accessories that expand capabilities for phones and laptops and computers. This drive here also expands on other accessories, but I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. Simply put, the UT2 is an enclosure for a pair of M.2 SSDs supporting up to 16 terabytes of internal storage. And it's a memory card backup with ports and card slots. And it's a network device with Ethernet and Wi-Fi. And it's a portable media hub for TVs and AR glasses. And it's a surprisingly powerful mini computer in its own right. It's like 4 things in one. Though I do kind of chuckle at the description on the UnifyDrive website that this is a pocketable solution. Maybe some cargo pockets. But all in all, it is smaller than many of the ruggedized portable hard drives that I used to use on film sets back in the day. This review is gonna be a little complex. I have a number of positive criticisms for this because it's trying to do so much. And number one, it's kind of tough just to get a handle on what this is. The website is highlighting the feature set, but on first glance, what would you think this is? Until I dug through the site a little deeper, I honestly thought it was more like a laptop dock or hub, like, one of the little enclosures that I've recently reviewed. No, that's not what this is. This is more of a network drive, and you'll use it mostly connected to Wi-Fi or Ethernet. It just happens to have more features than older traditional network drives. It's pretty beefy. So we crack this panel on the back. We have slots for the 2 M.2 drives. It's not a toolless enclosure, but it's only 3 small screws, and it's cute. They include a screwdriver in the box. But on its own, it will not show up as a drive if you just plug it into a computer. You need to go through that setup process first, get the SSDs formatted, and set up your account and security. I connected over my phone, it installed several updates, I set up a password, and we can also check some of the basic connections from these little indicator lights on the chassis. This is rugged, it's well protected, it's guarded, but it has active cooling, so it's not going to be water or dust resistant. And of course, it's got all of these open ports, but this still makes sense for out in the field backups. And that's where this stuff gets kind of fun, because this enclosure has its own built-in battery for short interactions. It's listed as a built-in battery backup, or UPS, portable RAID with an uninterruptible power supply. That way, if you're in the middle of a backup and you lose power, you won't lose that file transfer. If you're streaming some video from the drive and the power is cut from the drive, the battery can keep that video running for a little while after the power is cut. You pull out the UT2, probably from some cargo shorts, put in a memory card, you double tap this transfer button and wait for some beeps to tell you when the transfer is done. For a task like that, such a streamlined experience. Now, inside this, it's not just a controller chip for the storage. There's a full-fledged octa-core ARM chip in here. It's a Rockchip 3588 SoC. That's roughly a 4-year-old chip, but this isn't some weak TV streamer or even a NAS chip. We've got 4 Cortex A76 and 4 A55 cores. It puts this chip somewhere in between the performance of a Snapdragon 845 and 855. Those sound old, but they're still overkill for most consumer needs on smartphones. It's a tier of performance that still sets older premium phones apart from more recent entry-level and the cheaper mid-ranger phones. That's kind of overkill out of the box for just moving some files around and streaming some 4K video. So where there's a ton of potential here, you can start running Docker images. I started with just a virtual Android phone, which runs a lot like I just had a real phone with a Snapdragon 855 built into this thing. But this is where I'm struggling with the current application of that performance, just a little. If I install the UnifyDrive app on my laptop and sign in, I can run a virtual computer from the UT2. If I plug the UT2 into another display, I just get simple options to manage files and play media. It's the main thing I hope will be updated on this drive. Give me direct access to those virtual machines. Run a lightweight Linux distro with a ton of storage. I can bring a little keyboard and mouse. That could be pretty sweet. It has Bluetooth. They include a Bluetooth remote. I'm just saying, we could open this up a bit. And as a tangent, I've never understood the feature of using a whole computer as a display for a mobile computer like this, or like desktop modes on phones. I prefer plugging directly into a monitor or a TV. The performance is better, there's less lag. It would definitely be more secure if you had to do something like use a business center computer at a hotel. Bypass the computer, plug directly into the screen. I'm obviously not saying it can't be useful to have a virtual machine, but I'm curious. I'm curious how you would use Docker images on something like this. Leave me some fun comments down below. I am very interested in revisiting this idea in a future video. Learn me something good. The travel experience here is solid. Traveling with some face displays or a portable monitor, or plugging this into a TV, you can carry an enormous movie library. You can use this to set up a little Wi-Fi access point and also manage files for a group of users. It's exactly the kind of thing we would have used back at Newegg when we were out there covering trade shows. And of course, shooting out in the field, the drive can quickly back up media from your cameras. I still think there would be some expectation from consumers that this would work plugged in, and there is a mode to enable flash storage. When you connect over a USB cable, but you have to partition the drive to allow that feature. After a point, I think that gets a bit clumsy. I can back up files on my laptop, but it's in a separate bucket when I use that flash storage mode. I get it. The drive has to maintain different file systems, and we definitely don't want something as clumsy as MTP running on a drive this big, but it also means in this current solution, I wouldn't use this as a drive that I could edit off of. And over a network, it's not really fast enough to do things like edit video. It is great for working on documents and presentations, especially collaborating. Going wireless, it's a more passive laptop backup than it is an actively used in that editing moment kind of drive. So there are still these lines dividing different products. When I want a hub for a PC and the fastest data connection, I'm looking at using one kind of enclosure. When I want travel features and mobile field backups, I'm looking at a different solution. The last little positive criticism, there's so much going on, you really do need to lean on the mobile app a lot to get into the more advanced functions. I'm pleased with the performance. It's a well-polished app. It's been working very well, better than any other network drive I've used in the past. But what makes me a little anxious is the longer term view. It's not unique to this company. I'm not just trying to pick on UnifyDrive. I'm just trying to keep an eye on hardware that needs specific apps to work. I'm impressed with this solution and how well it works today, and it has been getting regular updates. There's just no way to predict how long a company might support or if the company remains in operation. It's encouraging that like a NAS or a router, there is a web interface you can use through a browser, but that won't include the Docker support. I'm really happy the Android app is available to download directly so you can sideload it, and I would recommend doing that and just saving it on the UT2, so you always have it. I did that with both the Android and the Windows apps, just storing them locally here. Trying to wrap this up, I think the biggest hurdle is making sure consumers understand what this is and what it's not. I can totally see people checking out the website and not quite grokking what this thing actually does. If you need big storage at home, and when you travel to another home or a hotel room, you set up a computer and need fast storage in that one place, I think you're better off with a more traditional drive or one of the newer RAID mini boxes. The promise of the UT2 is not in outright speed. It won't max out a 2.5 or 10 gig network, but it's really flexible. A travel media hub for a whole family of gadgets. Backup files when you're out in the field. It serves those functions really well. And I don't like recommending on potential, but I think there's a lot of promise in this OS and the Docker setup. Even if it's not fully realized yet. At the time I produced this, the UT2 recently wrapped up a successful Kickstarter campaign, and these enclosures are shipping out to backers now. I'll be curious to see what their retail strategy is like when these start selling directly. Based on the crowdfunding, I'd expect an MSRP around $5.99 for the enclosure, and you supply your own M.2 drives. I think as a trend moving through 2025, we're going to see more and more of this kind of portable, mixed mode, a network kind of solution. So stay tuned, we've got a lot of fun stuff to cover, and I would like to hear from you. What are some of the fun things that you would like to see done with virtual machines from portable devices like this? I want those comments down below in this video. While I'm testing all this stuff and sharing my experiences, the folks who get to see my results first are my awesome patrons, all the people at patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. A huge thank you from the bottom of my heart. This list of names scrolling by on your screen, those folks are helping to keep the lights on here in the Gadget Lab. They're basically the coolest nerds in the universe. So I hope you'll check them out. Now, you know where you can find me around the rest of the internet, at SomeGadgetGuy. Basically everywhere, but these days I'm spending a bit more time on the Mastodons and the Blueskis, a lot less so on the Facebooks and the Instagrams and the Threads, and definitely not on the Dumpster Fire site, and I will catch you all on the next review.